say the very thing that everyone is thinking and they couldn't say. It smells in here. That person has a big nose. They expose. Children aren't naive and dumb. That's not what makes them dangerous, and that's not what makes them hard to accept. What makes them hard to accept is that they are brutally honest.
Yeah.
And that they will disrupt and break this fragile web we call adulthood. And sometimes it gets worse when children are more brutally honest about our behaviors. You go to church, or you go to the job, or you go to a park, and you meet up with a friend that at home you said, I cannot stand this person. I hope to God I never have to see them again. And the child heard that. So when you go to meet up with this person, you meet up with Jane, and there you are being exceptionally nice to Jane. I am so glad to see you. It's been so long, and the child looks up and is confused, and if the child has enough inside of him, the child says, I thought you didn't like this person. Am I making this up, or do you know that this is happening? Children are not hard to accept because they are annoying. They are annoying because they are honest. And they can disrupt things. Children are hard to accept because what you're accepting is not a small child or you with this bowl of flesh. What you are accepting is at times a voice that brings out and exposes what may have been very hard for you to accept about yourself. I'll share myself. I was working at a summer camp in Boston. Now, I forgot about this particular feature of my body for about 10 years. I never thought about it. Matter of fact, I forgot I had this particular feature of my body. But the very moment I walk into that summer camp, the very moment I walk into that room with my Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee, the very moment I look at the first kid, one of the things the first kid says in the first minute of me being at my new summer internship at this camp was, what is that? What's what? That thing. And then he touches. It's my Adam's apple. Now when I was like, 13, I don't know when this thing popped out. I'm a skinny man. Now you're all like, yeah. Right? When I was 13 and I was skinny, oh my gosh, this was the hardest thing for me to accept about myself. It made me ugly. Everybody saw it. Everybody knew, what is that, right? For some people, it's pimples. For other people, it's having to wear glasses. For other people, it's crooked teeth. For other people, there's a certain mold on your body. And you are self-conscious about it, and you think that this makes you ugly. When really, it just makes you unique. Right? It's your uniqueness. It's the thing about you that stands out. It's the thing about you that they all know. It's the thing about you that a person at an amusement park draws really exaggerated. And what we may try to hide as teenagers and as children is actually the very things that we use as adults to, identify each other. If I was in a room full of adults and you all were trying to name who I was, you might not say, the guy with that's rude. Alright? You try to come up with something else. Children expose it. And one of the hard things about being around children is that when you're around adults for so long, adults play the charade where you just don't say the very things that you know you want to say. But children will immediately expose it, and being around a child is like being around a voice that will expose to you what may have been hardest about you to accept. But there's something so beautiful about that. Children, being around children, accepting children, means that in some sense you are in a situation where you must be open to honesty. And as a writer, his name was Dostoevsky, he wrote a famous novel, he said there can be no salvation if you keep lying to yourself. When you accept this child, you get more than the child. You get me. And when you accept me, you accept the 1%. When I say adulthood is a massive web of deception, I don't mean to be cynical. I mean, some CNN or the political shows, and I'm like, oh, these lies. So I decided I was with my parents one Sunday, and they were watching the Andy Griffith Show. Oh, thank God for the Andy Griffith Show. The Andy Griffith Show, I know y'all don't know, is this old black and white show of a time when America's TV was moral and righteous, where it was black and white on TV, and the morals were black and white, right? Right? The Andy Griffith Show. I decided, oh man, I'm going to watch this show where it was a long time ago to feel better about adulthood. To look at a time when adults told each other the truth and were kind to each other. What did I find out after 3 episodes? Andy Griffith is the biggest liar on TV. The man is always lying. This guy can't sing in the choir. He comes up with a whole situation to cover that up. Aunt B has terrible pickles. She can't cook the pickles. Does he tell her that? No. The entire episode is one massive lie so that they don't have to tell Aunt B, your pickles are awful. Right? And here I am watching this. Even black and white TV with black and white morals, the exemplar of what it means to be a good adult, and Andy Griffith is lying. And I realized that adulthood is, at times, we must be honest, it is a system of charades and lies. The ethic of the Andy Griffith Show, I come to find out, is probably the ethic in church. It is where you cannot tell someone the whole truth, but you still remain loyal to them. You still try to protect them, you still try to care for them, you still try to take their interests in mind, but you don't tell them the whole truth. You don't tell them that pickles are awful because they are invested in the pickles. You don't tell them that they can't sing because they love the choir. Come up with another way. And that's what seems to be the ethic of adulthood. And children will disrupt that. There's a famous story called The Emperor's New Clothes. And in The Emperor's New Clothes, it's an allegory of how this emperor is wearing nothing, and all the adults in town pretty much went along with the lie. But it was but one child who said, but he's not wearing anything. And then the emperor realized he was naked. And all the adults went along with the lie. See, children, to accept a child is to accept a situation where you are related to someone who is not dumb, who is not naive, who is not ignorant, but where you are related to someone who, in all honesty, makes you be honest. You cannot lie to yourself, and you cannot really lie to a child. You could. Don't get me wrong, you can lie to children all the time, but you cannot do it in the same way you lie to adults. If adults are sort of sign a pledge, we're going to be lying to each other now. With children, you can't do that in the same way. You ever had to answer hard questions to a child? You ever have a child ask you, why don't we give money to that man in the train who's asking for money? You ever try to explain that? It's tricky. Well, maybe he was bad. Do you know? No, you make it up. Someone said, well, we don't give to people, we give to organizations. So now the child thinks, well, you don't give to people, you give to organizations if you want to help people. You ever had children ask you really hard questions? And you ever felt like the way you could answer those questions to an adult sort of is a wink and a nod, but the way you answer that question to a child, you can't do the wink and the nod. And all of a sudden you find yourself maybe not being able to answer the child truthfully, but at that moment you find yourself realizing, man, I am compromised in a way, and I've taken that for granted, and I need to check myself a little more. I was waiting for the rough of the tree to light up, and there was a child, I was waiting in the distance, and there was a child on his dad's shoulders, and we had a long distance between where I was standing and where the tree was, and there was all this empty space, and the police were not letting anybody there. Why were the police not letting anybody there? Because I was in the VIP section. So right when the tree lit up, all of a sudden you see all these limousines and fancy cars, and out come people for the VIP. And the little child says to the dad, Dad, why can't we go there? It's empty. And the dad says, well, it's the VIP section. Alright? So now I'm listening to the conversation trying not to look obvious. And the child says, what's VIP? So I look, listen. Well, it means very important person. Oh. Are we not important? And Dad says, no, it's something else. They paid money there. And it began this